Hello and a warm welcome to a new episode of the Sappi Blue Couch series. This is where we have a chance to discuss all the latest developments in the world of Sappi and also take a look at some of the most important trends in the paper industry. My name is Mariana Evenstein, and our topic today is functional paper packaging and the path towards greater recyclability. I'm very pleased to welcome three guests today to discuss this and so much more. Beginning with Julian Thielen, who is head of the Made for Recycling service at Interseroh Plus, which is a company that helps enterprises across Europe develop sustainable practices, which include innovative approaches to recycling. So hello to you, Julian.
Hello, thank you.
And also joining me today from Sappi is Kerstin Dietze. She is Key Account Manager for Paper and Packaging Solutions. And now Kerstin works directly with brand owners to help them develop tailor-made paper packaging. So greetings to you.
Thank you.
Beside her is Gustavo Duarte. He's manager at Competence Center Packaging Solution, and Gustavo looks after the technical development of functional papers. So welcome to the three of you. Now, I think everybody watching knows that Sappi is considered to be a specialist in barrier papers. So I'd like to hear how and why actually Sappi decided to develop this kind of papers.
Well, I think the short answer to that is no, I think it's the right thing to do, and I think Sappi realized it's the right thing to do. Now, the more elaborated answer to that, now it has actually different factors that come into play. Now, I think Sappi had a pretty good foresight earlier on, so we're talking about 2014, 2015, when Sappi and people within Sappi realized that there was going to be an ever-growing social awareness for the environment and sustainability, and that this would, of course, have implications from legal perspectives, and they would ultimately push the brand owners to look for new solutions, new, friendlier, more sustainable solutions.
So I understand that, in fact, you were working quite closely with brand owners when you're developing the barrier papers market. Can you explain to us why this close cooperation was so important?
In short, because it was really key to success. Why is it? Well, looking in the past, the traditional way of the paper industry to develop products was rather looking into the assets, because it's huge beast that you cannot easily change, and thinking or developing things which can be produced on those assets, and then trying to find a market for those. But this could not work for these type of innovations, because it's crucial to really understand directly from the brand owner where their pain points are, and to understand how they see their future packaging. And also we could not just even by only understanding what they really need and want, we could not just do it, because also we needed them to really go into a collaboration. Look, each product you pack, be it a food product, or be it a chocolate, or be it dehydrated soup, for example, they need completely different functionality of the packaging to protect the goods. Could also be dishwasher taps or things like that. So they all have different requirements of what the material needs to deliver in terms of functionality in order to protect the food or the good. And hence it was so important to involve them, to give them the prototype papers we developed and let them test and give feedback if this is already performant. And so we really developed in iterative cycles, and with the feedback we exactly then understood what we still need to improve and work on. And then it's not only the functionality in terms of the protection of the goods, it also needs to work in the existing processes on the packaging lines, for example. And you simply need to test and get the feedback and see what happens and learn and rebuild and improve. And that we couldn't have done alone. So that was really a key to go in those collaborations.
But there's also another player involved in all of these things. I understand, Julian, that your company Interseroh is part of Alba, which is one of the main recycling companies in Germany, in case some of our viewers are not familiar with that. And I know that your company is actually helping transition to more sustainable packaging solutions. Can you tell us about your work?
Yes, Interseroh Plus is basically a dual system, and the dual system we are responsible for collecting, sorting and recycling packaging material. And to do so, the big brands and everybody bringing packaging into the market is paying us a license fee to really do that job. And with Interseroh Plus, we're having a new approach that is not just focusing on this legal demand, but also on the packaging agenda or the sustainable agendas that are coming for these big brands, big retailers. They say, okay, we want to have recyclable packaging by 2025, for example. And this is a more marketing topic and a sustainability topic. And we are helping these to bring them, or to give them an entry ticket into the whole circular economy with our Interseroh Plus approach. And combined with that, we are also running the Made for Recycling service. That's the one I'm responsible for at Interseroh Plus. And here we're helping to improve the recyclability of each packaging for our customers. And this is just one of three main topics that help us to really increase the recyclable or recycling content or the recycling quota. And one thing is that we invested heavily into our sorting plants, that we made campaigns for end consumers to really separate waste correctly, because this is a huge topic as well. And of course, the recycling-friendly packaging design that we help together with partners like Sappi to really improve the income material that's coming into our sorting lines.
All right, Julian, but if your company then determined that a brand owner's packaging is recyclable, how can I tell that that's the case just if I'm the end consumer?
Yeah, of course, as an end consumer, it's just impossible to see whether the packaging you have in your hands is a multi-layer material or what material is used, if this is recyclable material. For that reason, we created the Made for Recycling seal to really show on the pack that this packaging is more sustainable than other packaging. And so this is how we focus on the sustainable demand for sustainable packaging.
So how important then is this seal for the brand owners?
It's quite important. Thing is that on the one hand side, we could claim a lot about our papers. And of course, for us, it's at our heart to really make them recyclable. But just stating that they are, that does not necessarily mean something to the market and to the brand owner. And there's also a lot of uncertainty about new materials. So do they really fulfill their targets? And hence it's very important to have from a third party an objective label that is really proving that this has been tested objectively. And so they can really be sure that they don't go for any greenwashing, and so that's easily that that brand owners, especially the big players, are accused to that, and that's something they really want to avoid. And since they, a lot of them, the big players like Unilever, Nestle, Mondelez, Mars, they have committed to very ambitious targets to move their packaging towards 100% recyclable packaging, to reduce virgin plastics. And it's for them, it's really key to really be 100% sure that they're doing the right things. And this is helping a lot to have a proof of that.
And I suppose it also doesn't hurt that that's what their customers want, and so they can look for it, and then they're reinforcing the trust that customers have in that brand. Yeah. So if it's not just the brand claiming we're recyclable and green, but there's this external authority, so to speak, also saying that they are.
Absolutely right, and it's also often that, of course they want to fulfill their targets towards a more recyclable packaging, but also marketing wants to claim something on the pack. And for that, such a label is most helpful.
Okay, so it's helpful to marketing, but I'm just wondering how relevant these types of recyclability assessments are actually just in the technical development process. Like, does it play a role as well?
It's crucial. I mean, in essence, Sappi, we don't actually recycle paper, so it would be a bit weird for us to be making such bold claims. So we've been collaborating with Julian and Made for Recycling for several years now. We've tested a lot of prototypes throughout development to find out, now, do we go left, do we go right during the development? I think it's vital for us. So you've used them a lot to get that. And of course, we failed a lot in the beginning. Now that's part of the development and part of the learnings. And as we moved forward with developments and in time and with the learnings, we've done better and better and better. So I think it's been a crucial point. And a vital collaboration in that sense.
And I think it's the mark of a successful company that can fail and learn from the mistakes and then do better the next time.
Also realize what you don't know to begin with and how to partner with the people that actually can give you an answer to a given problem, learn with them and collaborate with them. And this is what we've been doing with Julian and Made for Recycling.
Well, maybe then, Julian, you can give us just a quick overview of how this whole process actually works. So how does Interseroh Plus go about assessing, let's say, an existing packaging portfolio? So there's more than one type of packaging then.
Definitely, there are, depending on the customer as it is, right? You have some that just have a few packages that we can send directly into our laboratory for testing, or where you're having a bigger, huge portfolio with hundreds of packaging. And then we can start with a workshop at the beginning. We actually did one with Sappi years ago to start the process, the collaboration, to really see, where's the knowledge of the customer and what's the status quo, what is the low-hanging fruits, right? What is easy to change to get bigger improvements. And after we identified this, we do have for plastic packaging our own laboratory that we're doing the sorting test, the material tests. And for paper packaging, we do have another laboratory where we really do the repulping test, and then we see whether the finished paper, the recycled paper, is having good optical properties or even mechanical properties. And depending on the result, right, we are giving our customers practical advices on how to improve the packaging. And this can be a process, as we saw from this collaboration, where we really went step by step. And as sooner that we are involved into the design process, of course, we can help to make more recyclable packaging.
Okay, but I'm also just curious about what's considered traditional packaging. I mean, that's still very much present. So how recyclable is traditional packaging? Or maybe you can even explain, like, what are we talking about when we're talking about traditional packaging?
Well, Marianne, there's literally thousands of millions of different packages out in the market, so making overall statements is always dangerous in that sense. But we at Sappi really strongly believe that we're going into a direction with functional papers that will have a significant step forward in terms of recyclability versus more multi-layer composite materials that are currently existing in the market, which can score from difficult to recycle to completely non-recyclable. I mean, it depends on the final package that is out there in the market. So we absolutely have the feeling, and we do have the data to support that the new solutions in functional papers are easier to recycle. And we've learned that in collaboration with Made for Recycling. And in our first attempts, we were less good. And now, as we learn and as we evolve, we try and make better and better, or easier and easier to recycle products. But how do you see it, Julian? Because it's this collaboration we've learned from that, and that's the way we're heading.
Yeah, in general, when we're talking about functional papers, we're in the area of flexible packaging in general. And there, if you're looking through the supermarket, most flexible packaging you see is probably today multi-layer packaging. If it's not, it's still having barriers in there. It's making the recyclability quite hard. And so, yeah, it's a bit poor to compare plastic recycling with paper recycling. But in general, it's the target to come to monomaterials. That could be also possible just with polypropylene, polyethylene. You see these developments right now. But if a company or a brand is going the easy path They just take the packaging that it is today, could be a multi-layer packaging, and just add a paper layer on the outside to make it look more sustainable, right? To have it a paper feel, paper touch, and consumers, they buy it, definitely. Right? And
I have to ask you about that because, just sorry to interrupt you, but so there's a brand of milk that I recently saw. They've been selling it in this brown color, so it looks like paper.
Even recycled paper, it looks
Yes,
like, yeah?
So they make it look like recycled paper, but it contains milk. So I'm just wondering, is that an example of that kind of greenwashing? So would a container like that be recyclable?
Yeah, these drinking cartons, they're an extra case. They're having extra sorting fractions on sorting lines, quite established in Europe. But yeah, here you're also having multi-layers. You're having paper, you're having aluminum, you're having PE on the inside to really seal it together at the end. And yeah, this is such a composition that's hard to recycle everything, right? You can get the paper on the outside to extract the fibers and make new cardboard. But yeah, you still have either plastic or aluminum on the inside. Then that's hard to recycle in the full packaging structure, right? And yeah, then on the other side, you compare this to these functional papers that are having sealing layers with barrier properties as well. And these are, of course, harder to manufacture, harder to bring on your packaging lines, but can behave better in recycling, because as soon as you're having thinner layers that could dissolve in water, you can come into the paper stream instead of mixed plastic or mixed packaging stream. And this is totally different as a market chances, right, for paper mills.
Okay, but then what happens if one of the brand owners that you work with who sent in their paper packaging for assessment and then it fails, so the assessment is negative? What happens then?
Yeah, what happens then? So this indeed happened. I do remember two examples. In one case, in every case, the pure paper we have sent to Made for Recycling has tested positive, so we had a certificate. But the final converted, so printed material that failed. And one occasion, it was heavily printed, and there was not only inks and varnish, but also cold seal adhesive on it, and then you need a release lacquer on top of that. So there was pretty much added to the paper, and so that made the whole thing then in the end failing in the final assessment. And there again, collaboration is key. So what we did is really working together with the brand owner, with the converter, and us to really investigate. So first we needed to understand why it was failing in detail. So there the assessment helped, and then also involving the ink manufacturer and see so if changing the type of inks and varnish could help, and changing the print design to something else. So these are possible measures to improve on that. And in another example, I do remember the testing failed for the Italian market because there's a different test method. And entering the paper there, it failed, whilst it passed here at Made for Recycling. So there we also then understood that there are different test methods existing, which leading to different results.
That's actually quite challenging, I imagine, because, I mean, you would think that Germany, where recycling is very well established, that it would have some sort of standard, but is there no sort of Europe-wide standard? I mean, I don't know if it's even possible to have a Europe-wide standard, or forget about a global standard. Are we anywhere close to that kind of thing?
We are not yet. So this is indeed an issue which makes the whole topic extremely complex. Because indeed today in each and every European country and region, you have different standards. We have in Europe, I think at least, correct me if I'm wrong, 5 different test methods. But also the definition of what's recyclable in the different countries is completely different. So there is not one definition of this and that is recyclable, and if you have it differently, it's not. There, for example, are different thresholds. So looking at paper packaging, like for example in Germany, there's a threshold of you're only allowed to have 5% others than paper to have this in the blue bin stream. And there are different thresholds in other countries, like, for example, 20% in one country, 15% in another. So for a multinational company, it's really different to have, to really know, so is this packaging right now recyclable in all countries that I want to sell it? And there's a lot of confusion because of this, not existing one standard for Europe.
It also makes it tricky, I think, that it's really weird that paper industry is not different from Belgium to Germany, and it becomes really awkward when a packaging product crosses the border and all of a sudden it's deemed unrecyclable, which does not make sense. So actually, Forever Green, which is an alliance of different companies throughout the supply chain, is trying to harmonize that in Europe. Ideally, we would try to harmonize that also with a more global perspective, also with North America, but that's going to be a journey, and it's not necessarily going to be an easy one. But work is happening in that direction to try and harmonize that, at least in Europe, where we have a free market of goods going from one country to the other. So that is the goal of Forever Green, actually, and ultimately the goal of Forever Green is to achieve a 90% recyclability of fiber-based packages by 2030.
Very ambitious.
Very ambitious, although the paper industry is quite ahead of the game. So I do not know the last number, but I think we're in the 80s already. So and it's always the last percent are always the harder to get. Now it is ambitious, but it is also doable.
Yeah, and we're also looking for that harmonization of these test methods, because also for us it's such a pain to see how different methods bring up totally different results. And like Gustavo said, this is nothing is changing from the technical side. Either it's here in Germany or it's in the UK or in Spain, right? The paper process is quite fixed here. And what we try to give our customers as well, because they are not only selling their packaging in Germany, giving the information about the recycling infrastructure in these different countries. How is the collection, right? Is there a special bin for papers, a special bin for packaging? And how is the infrastructure? Do 100% of these materials make it to a sorting plant, or go some directly to incineration or to landfill, right? This is still so different, also across Europe, that we try to make interviews with local experts to give this knowledge also to our customers.
And it should also be noted, it's not just a question of infrastructure. I mean, it's great if you have bins, but I think ordinary people also have to be educated so they understand how they're supposed to recycle, and also what is recyclable. I think just a lot of people maybe don't know. And I mean, as a consumer myself, and I'm not an expert in paper, so I don't always know if a paper package, if it's shiny, can I recycle it? Does it go into the plastic bin? Does it go into the paper bin? So maybe some of you experts can also work towards educating ordinary consumers about what they need to know to be good recyclers. And speaking of the future, for my last question on the three of you, I'd actually love to hear from you where you see the future of paper packaging. Like, we've been talking a lot about recycling, but where do you see the journey of paper packaging moving forward, also if we're thinking about recycling? Maybe, Kerstin, I will begin with you.
Yeah, I'm 100% convinced that functional paper packaging will come more and more. We have already seen quite some interesting cases of brands having relaunched to a functional paper-based packaging. For example, Nestle has changed the entire Smarties brand as the first confectionery brand entirely to paper. And we also see a lot of tea brands changing their plastic tea sachets to paper sachets with using functional papers. And we see cereal products and flour and rice and pasta changing to paper, and we will see a lot more to come. And also the fact, so why Sappi is a front runner or has been a front runner in these developments, we see other companies following this path, which is not an obstacle to us. It's rather encouraging because it gives more significant capacity to the market. It's driving this innovation further as it brings competition in here, which is quite healthy. And it also gives the confidence to the brand owners and producers so that these materials will be available really in future and that they have a choice to make. And this will definitely, make them a relevant choice for sustainable packaging material for the future.
And Julian, I know that your company doesn't only work with paper packaging, but looking specifically at the future of paper packaging, how do you see the development?
Yeah, I think the paper train is a train you cannot stop anymore, right? With all these plastic bashing out there, we as the expert, we can see this a little bit neutral, kind of neutral, right? To talk about plastics and papers, but end consumers are driving this massively, and it's also like the retailers, they want to save fossil resources. This is also leading to more paper packaging, and I hope that they put the effort and work in there to really make good recyclable packaging and good recyclable papers, and don't see paper in general as easy to recycle, because that's obviously not the case, and you need to work with that. What will be interesting to see is how this increase food packaging or paper in food context will lead to more organic waste also in the paper stream itself, and how this will affect the recyclability of the whole paper stream. This will be interesting to see.
Also, you have to think about these technical aspects, like you say, like reducing one type of packaging might mean increasing other types of packaging, and there are all these things that follow from that. Gustavo, I'd like to also just hear from you as a technical expert. Where do you see the future of paper packaging?
I agree with Julian. No, the train has left the station, and there's no stopping it. I think that the data is pouring out there. There has been articles being published showing that this is the better sustainability, lower CO2 footprints. I mean, paper is a very sustainable resource that we as mankind, as a species, we have a long history with, and we know how to handle forestries, so we can make it a very sustainable business. So I think that it definitely is going the right path. The more developers like myself, the more we've learned, we will develop products that are better and better and better at doing their job, and simultaneously easier and easier and easier to recycle. Nevertheless, we also have to understand that, and I have here an example for you, a sample. Now we have to understand that it is also inconceivable to expect the expectations that a copy paper would be or in this case a functional paper would be as easy to recycle as a copy paper. Though it has added functionality. It needs to resist water, it needs to resist oxygen, it needs to be grease proof so that it protects the goods. So it is also unexpected it's not reasonable to expect that those two are always going to be as easy to recycle. That's not going to be the case. But we do believe that they're going to be easier to recycle, and they are easier to recycle today than laminate and composite structures. And the further we develop, the better they will become. But we also need the rest of the industry, of the recycling paper industry, to do their role, and also make their systems more robust for the new products that are going to be entering the market over the next decades.
So exciting times ahead.
For all of us.
For all of you. So Gustavo, Duarte, Kerstin Dietze, Julian Thielen, thank you so much for this fascinating discussion. Thank you for the paper samples.
You can keep those.
Really a pleasure to speak to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Likewise.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
And of course, as always, thank you to our viewers for watching. We hope you join us again for the next episode of the Sappi Blue Couch series. Until then, take care everybody, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.